Welcome, brave souls, to a story that transcends the boundaries of ordinary life. In today's video, we delve into a true story of love turned terror, a moonlit escape through the woods that echoes with the resilience of the human spirit. Join me as we unravel the chilling events of a dating app encounter gone horribly wrong and witness the transformation of a young woman from victim to survivor. This is not just a story, it's a testament to strength, overcoming fear, and stepping out of the shadows into the light. I invite you to buckle up for a journey that will send shivers down your spine and leave you with a newfound appreciation for the indomitable strength within us all. I met him through a dating app. He was tall, handsome, and charming, a combination that made my heart skip a beat. Our conversations flowed effortlessly, weaving a web of connection that seemed too good to be true. After a few weeks of talking, we decided it was time to take the plunge and meet in person. The day arrived and he insisted on picking me up and dropping me off. Red flags hovered like ghosts in the back of my mind, but his smile and charisma dispelled any unease. He told me he lived in a remote area, away from the hustle and bustle, and didn't want me to travel there alone. Concern for my safety echoed in his every word, making me feel both flattered and slightly uneasy. As we headed into the remote forest, I couldn't help but notice the dense trees and the lack of any sign of civilization. My instincts tingled, whispering that something was wrong, but I dismissed them as unfounded paranoia. After all, we were going to a cozy cabin in the woods for a romantic weekend, or so he said. The cabin was picturesque, a rustic retreat surrounded by the serenity of nature. But the more we settled in, the more I felt a strange unease. He seemed overly vigilant, almost obsessed with my safety. "You have to be careful out there," he'd repeat, his eyes scanning the area as if anticipating some unseen danger. As the days passed, I began to feel a change. The charm that had once drawn me in now had a sinister edge. He watched me, scrutinized my every move, and insisted on knowing my whereabouts at all times. The atmosphere grew tense, a far cry from the romantic escape I had imagined. Then came the night when the illusion was shattered. I woke up in a dark room, tied to a chair. Panic gripped me, and my heart raced like a bird in captivity. I couldn't understand how I had ended up here, in this nightmare. The remote cabin that had promised solace now felt like a prison, and the man I thought I knew wore a mask of deceit. As I struggled against my bonds, memories flooded back to the negative clues, the warnings I had chosen to ignore. He had been orchestrating this sinister plan all along. The veneer of charm crumbled, revealing the true nature of my captor. In the eerie silence of that remote cabin, my determination to survive grew. Every second ticked like a drumbeat, echoing my resolve. I vowed to escape the clutches of this dark plot, to unravel the twisted web that had ensnared me. Now, bound in darkness, I faced the terrifying reality that my date's obsession with my safety was a cover for something far more sinister. The forest, once a backdrop for romance, now hid the horrors of false charm and deadly deception. The battle for survival had just begun, and in the heart of that remote cabin, the narrative shifted from a love story to a chilling tale of kidnapping, false imprisonment, and the fight for freedom. The room seemed to absorb every sound, making my breathing sound like thunder in the ominous silence. Panic threatened to overwhelm me, but I clung to a shred of determination. I needed to assess my surroundings, find any weakness in my bonds, and plan my escape. The darkness was oppressive, but my fingers explored the rough texture of the ropes that held me captive. As my hands moved methodically, memories of the charming man I'd met on the dating app flashed through my mind. How could I have been so blind? The sweet smiles and romantic gestures were nothing more than a facade for his twisted intentions. In the dim light filtering through a small crack in the wall, I caught a glimpse of the room. The cold realization hit me it was a hut, much like the one we had arrived at, but completely different. No warmth, no romance, just the stench of betrayal and fear. My mind raced, recalling the negative clues I had put aside. His insistence on controlling every detail of our meeting, the way he watched me like a predator sizing up its prey, and the eerily remote location all pointed to a meticulously planned abduction. The creak of a floorboard echoed in the silence, drawing my attention to the door. It swung slowly open, revealing the silhouette of the man who had deceived me. His face was now devoid of the charm that had drawn me in, replaced by a sinister grin that sent shivers down my spine. "So you're awake," he said, his voice dripping with malice. "Did you think you could escape my plans?" I gathered all the courage I could and shot back. "What do you want? Why are you doing this?" His laughter echoed around the room. "You were too naive to see the signs. I wanted you to experience the fear you never knew existed. A lesson, if you will." My mind raced as I searched for an opening, a way to free myself from the constraints that bound me. The man circled me like a vulture, reveling in my vulnerability. Every step he took, every word he spoke, fueled my determination to break free. As he approached, a sudden surge of adrenaline coursed through my veins. With a burst of strength, I lunged forward, chair and all, and crashed into him. The impact caught him off guard, and he stumbled backwards, momentarily disoriented. Seizing the opportunity, I struggled against the ropes with renewed vigor. My hands worked frantically, fueled by the desperation for freedom. With each passing second, the knots loosened, bringing me closer to escape. The man recovered, his expression twisted with rage. He lunged at me, but I managed to free one hand just in time. With one swift movement, I tore the rest of the bonds away. The moment of truth had arrived. In a frenzy of determination and fear, I sprinted for the door, propelled by the adrenaline coursing through my veins. The woods outside loomed like a labyrinth, but I welcomed the unknown over the horrors of this cabin. As I emerged into the night, gasping for breath, the remote woods that had once seemed enchanting now became my sanctuary. The moon cast long shadows, and I raced through the darkness, guided only by my instinct to survive. The nightmare was far from over, but with every step I took, I embraced the strength that had emerged from the depths of fear. The woods echoed with my desperate footsteps, marking the beginning of my struggle to free myself from a date-turned-nightmare, and a journey to reclaim the shattered pieces of my trust. The forest enveloped me in an eerie silence as I sprinted through the tangled undergrowth. My breath was ragged, my heart pounded like a drum in my ears, and the moon above cast a pale glow on the path ahead. Fear clung to me, but so did determination. I could hear the distant sounds of pursuit behind me. Branches snapping, leaves rustling, and the echo of the predator's footsteps urging me on. My only thought was escape from the nightmare unfolding in the remote cabin. The trees blurred into a maze of shadows, but I refused to succumb to the darkness. The adrenaline-fueled sprint felt like an eternity until I stumbled into a clearing. Moonlight spilled onto a desolate path, a thin lifeline in the suffocating wilderness. Desperation led me to follow its winding path, my eyes scanning the horizon for any sign of civilization. A distant hum echoed through the silence, and relief washed over me as I spotted the glimmering lights of a passing car. Hope surged, and I flagged down the vehicle, practically diving into the safety of its headlights. A kind stranger, a guardian angel on this harrowing night, offered me a lift to the nearest town. As the miles passed, the gravity of my ordeal began to sink in. I recounted the events, the deceptions, and the narrow escape. The remote cabin that promised romance had become a sinister trap, and the man I thought I knew was a wolf in sheep's clothing. From the safety of the town, I contacted the authorities and told them the chilling story of my abduction. The wheels of justice began to turn, and the once charming facade of my captor crumbled under the scrutiny of the law. The nightmare, though far from forgotten, now had a glimmer of resolution. Days turned into weeks, and the healing process began. The support of friends, family, and therapy became my pillars. The scars, both physical and emotional, remained, but so did the strength born of surviving the unthinkable. The remote cabin in the woods became a distant memory, a haunting chapter in my life. The dating app, once a gateway to potential connections, became a cautionary tale, but in time, trust in others was cautiously rebuilt and the shadows of fear receded. In the aftermath of that fateful night, I emerged not as a victim, but as a survivor, resilient in the face of darkness. The experience reshaped my perspective, my caution evolving into a vigilant strength. The moonlit escape through the woods became a testament to the indomitable spirit that can emerge from the most harrowing trials. And as the scars faded, replaced by a newfound resilience, I left the shadows of that remote cabin, leaving behind the echoes of deception. The forest, once a scene of terror, was transformed into a symbol of triumph, a reminder that even in the darkest corners there is the strength to endure and rebuild. As we conclude this gripping tale, we bear witness to the triumph of the human spirit over the darkest of forces. If you were inspired by this story of resilience, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true stories of strength and survival. Let this story serve as a reminder that even in the face of terror, there is always hope, always strength, and always the power to emerge from the shadows. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and until next time, stay strong, stay resilient, and always keep the light burning within.